So Pakistan, New Zealand, India, all in the same group on the Champions Trophy, but only two will qualify. Welcome to the shiny side. I'm your host, Faris. And we have with us from Houston, Omer Basir. Now, Omer, welcome to the show. It's been a while. We have another ICC tournament around the corner now.
Grace, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, it's a big one.
We spoke about right before the tournament started, the tie series started, and we spoke about how Pakistan had picked a squad which we didn't necessarily love. And I think a lot of the fears we had essentially came true with the way all the new guys performed and all the weaknesses showed up. What do you make of the series overall?
We wanted answers to by the end of the series. I don't think we have answers to it. It was a short series, so there wasn't much time for experimentation. I think the biggest cause of concern, you know, the people have been talking about it. I think we were resisting the urge, but I think Babar Azam needs to show up, right? He is when you have a top batter like that in the team, he needs to be winning you every third game maybe, right? But we haven't seen him come to the party in a bit, so I think that's a major cause of the tournament.
Yeah, and I mean, and we walked in and we came up with some new things, right? I mean, we'll get into, I guess, the detail of it in a minute now. But I guess just to kind of quickly recap, so Pakistan, of course, played the first game against New Zealand, and we didn't do so well. They made 320. We were lost by about 78 odd runs. And then in the next game, we actually managed to chase pretty well against South Africa. We chased the score that was what 350 plus, Pakistan's highest ever run chase. So that was actually pretty good showing by our guys. But that was essentially the extent of it, right? Because then um, the final again, New Zealand made about what we were at first. We were about 250 all out, and then New Zealand changed quite easily. So I'm not sure if we've. I think the questions we had before they still remain, but we don't have any new answers really. If I can put it like that. But I guess more specifically, if we talk about the bowling first, right? So I think a quick bowling, in the death especially looks problematic. I think Harris going out, of course, was a big caveat. So I think he went out in the first game and then he wasn't there. But what do you make of the quick bowling overall?
Yeah, quick bowling, we've seen a steady decline over the last few months, so I don't think it's been a big surprise. I think Shaheen's been doing, he's improved again. He's come back to being a really good new ball bowler. But I think the drop in pace really shows when you come in the later stages of the game, right? On these flat pitches where you really need some extra zip to make a difference. And I think that's what's showing up is and it's when you're used to bowling at 140, 150 clicks, and all of a sudden you're at in the 130s, even as a bowler, I think you haven't
Yeah,
maybe sometimes accepted the fact that a ball that would maybe be tough to tackle with is now an easier hit for a batsman. So I think overall the death bowling, like you said, is a challenge. I think Haris will help, his return will help, but I think both Naseem and Shaheen need to step it up,
yeah,
right? And I don't think we have a quality spinner of that sort who can bowl in the
yeah,
power plays.
yeah. We'll come to the spinner, but I think on Shaheen specifically, I actually feel like he's bowling fairly well in the middle overs and the power play. But it's the end where he's struggling. And I think Harris not being there really kind of exaggerated the problem for us. And Naseem had a pretty couple of ordinary game, but I thought he was getting it together in the last game, in the final. I think he bowled pretty well. He troubled the batsman to some extent also. And I'm hoping it's at the right time. Abrar is a big question mark, right? Because we put all our spin eggs in his basket, and he had a decent first game, but then he was pretty ordinary in the next two, and even South Africa's tier two battle lineup essentially was managing to pick him.
I feel like he just needs more game time and hopefully he'll keep improving in his defense. We haven't really played him consistently for a very long time, so he's still new and we have to just accept that. Um, yeah, I think it's going to be the whole team needs to step up and play together to make a difference. Naseem was really good with the new ball in that last game. He was swinging it both ways, and when Naseem turns it on, he's a delight to watch. So that would be
Yeah.
a big positive if he can show up. Um, and then we talked about the fifth, sixth bowler between Aga and Khushdil. Khushdil actually did it decently, right, from what we were expecting. I think he was all right to be a sixth bowler or maybe a five and a half bowler fifth. But Salman Aga, I think he can do a little bit better too. But I mean, South Africa's batters, those guys when they turn it on, I think anybody, it's hard to contain them, right, regardless of
Yeah.
who.
The problem with Khushdil, Omar, you mentioned is that I think, unfortunately, even when he's got a chance to bat and he's actually played like 20 odd balls, he just seems to be struggling to even middle it. And I'm not even saying he should be scoring a 50 or 20 balls, but he's not even scoring a run a ball. So I feel like, given that we've gone for a batsman who bowls a bit as opposed to the opposite, I feel like that's a major, I mean, major, like you said, he wasn't particularly bad with the ball, but he's not doing his job with the bat, as far as I can see.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. The challenge in my head is, who is a batter that we can pull in who can bowl a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, Shadab Khan had a really decent outing for the Shaheen in one of the warm up games.
Against
Yeah,
Afghanistan.
against which country it was. So he's putting his hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Afghanistan. So he's putting his hand up. So yeah, I mean, bowling was okay for Khushdil, but batting still. I mean, I don't think his batting has ever been convincing in the international stage.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we spoke about selection at length, right? But I think at this point, there's no point as such talking about. I mean, there's a long list of people we think shouldn't be there. But the idea is we have 15, we have to make the best of what we have. So that
Yeah.
selection, and I guess Harris's fitness is a big question mark. The fact that they haven't replaced him makes me think he should be ready. But how match fit he is, and is he at 100% or not? I guess we'll only find out to come Wednesday. I guess a couple of positives. Fakhr's form, he's come back after a long time, and he looked like he never left. He's looking probably like the best batsman we have in the format. Um, and Rizwan and Salman Agha, I guess a couple of the other uh, positives as far as the batting is concerned.
Oh, I mean, again, it's a situation of what ifs with Pakistan cricket. Like, Saim and Fakhr at the top. I mean, it'd be what a combo they would have been. But yeah, nice
Yeah,
to see Fakhr playing like he does. But it's in its major tournament and against these bigger oppositions that will turn it up. I mean, it'll be interesting to
yeah,
see. I mean, let's keep in mind South Africa didn't really have their main
yeah,
bowling lineup
yeah,
available. So their front so that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, no, taking nothing away from Fakhr. And again, even the partnership between Rizwan and Salman, I think we're all shocked by it.
yeah,
It takes a lot of guts and skill to last that long when you come in at that stage. So I think all credit to them, and
yeah.
it's a very positive sign. I think we just need the top. If Babar again, that's what I was starting with. Is if Babar can be there and get an innings
And
going, we seems like we do have a few of the people think together.
that's a good segue into my next question, which is, what do you make of Babar opening the batting? So I know Babar is struggling generally. Having said that, he's got 1900s in his career batting at number three. He's got 350s out of the last five innings before playing this series at number three. Do you think it's a good idea to, like, because of by making him bat at the opening slot, he also kind of, I thought Kamran Ghulam started pretty well. We were batting him at six in the South Africa series. We now played him at number three, and then now we've dropped him as well. So we're just chopping and changing too much as opposed to just putting somebody as an opener and letting Babar at three and Kamran Ghulam at six. What's your take on Babar's spot?
I always wanted him to continue at number three. That's a very, that's your one of the most important slots where you need to manage the entire innings
Yeah,
and hold it together. When you're an opener, there's sometimes a lot of pressure to, keep the scoreboard ticking, regardless of conditions, regardless of opposition's plans, and that's where I don't like it. I don't want Babar to be in that situation. I'd rather have a South Shakil or someone else to take those
yeah,
risks on. And in case, Fakhr falls early, you still need somebody to keep hitting. I don't think we want Babar to play 40 overs. We do not want Babar
yeah.
to play fewer overs.
Very quickly, I want to put up the potential 11. And actually, I think there's some issue with this, but so I think the 11, do you think we're going to go with the same 11 we went in the first game, which essentially means Haris comes in for Fahim? Is that the 11, or do you think there'll be a different look to the Pakistan side now?
Weird. I mean, there's no reason, and there's nobody really sitting on the bench that Fahim Ashraf wasn't effective enough with the ball. He with the bat, he kind of lasted there a little bit, but yeah, I think we need Haris. We need an attacking bowler. We need to strengthen that up. He comes in, and yeah, I think the batting lineup remains the same.
Yeah. So I guess if we had another spinner or somebody, it would probably be a good idea, right? But I think given that we don't have that, I mean, for New Zealand, I'd consider playing a second spinner perhaps, but again, that's your 11, I guess. With Usman Khan, Kamran Ghulam, Fahim Ashraf, and Aslan. I would probably bring Kamran Ghulam over Tayyab Tahir. I feel like that one knock in South Africa was probably better than anything I've seen Tayyab do. Having said that, I don't know if they want to make that change because Tayyab is kind of the incumbent.
Yeah.
They're giving him all the games.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I'm a little bit disappointed with Tayyip. I think he got that opportunity even against New Zealand, right? There was time he could have batted. He hit some really, really good shots. So I think there's a lot of promise there.
Yeah,
But we need these guys to step up. Kamran has a century under his belt, so that is definitely an argument to be had. Even, I mean, would you remove Saud for Kamran? You know,
yeah,
is that even an
yeah,
option? So there are a couple of things to think about. But overall, I see the same 11 stepping up.
yeah. Okay, so moving on to India now. Now, on the one hand, they look incredibly strong against England. They just won 3-0 in an ODI series. Um, the series before that, if you look at it the other way, the series before that they lost to Sri Lanka 2-1 with their full strength side in somewhat sprint friendly conditions, which may be a bit similar to what they find in the UAE now. And now this is a very similar side to the one that played the ODI World Cup, where of course they were very strong, but there's no Bumrah. Shami has just come back and looking pretty orderly, and there's no Siraj because he's been dropped. So, do you feel like India's coming in as strong favorites with the momentum, or do you think there's some question marks for them?
I think they're still favorites for the tournament. Without Bumrah, I mean he's a huge loss, obviously, but I think they've got a very effective spinning combination. And then
Yeah,
I don't know if Shami's at his best yet, but I think they've got
yeah,
enough firepower there. I think for them the key will be to chase because they've got the batting firepower certainly
yeah,
to chase any score. But I think it'll always get interesting if they are put into bat, what type of score they put in, and then under pressure, can their fast bowlers step up? So that'll be the biggest thing
yeah,
to look out for. But I think
yeah,
they're still a favorite. They've got a pretty decent spin attack, and then Shami, if he turns it on, he's a great bowler.
and their balance is completely opposite of Pakistan. So they picked five spinners and three quicks. So they've got Kuldeep and Chakravarti, who are the specialist spinners, and they have Jadeja, Akshar, and Washington Sundar with the all-rounders, right? So they clearly want to line up with a number of spin options. And the funny thing is, they only have three quicks on the side. There is Shami, who's played 3 games in the last year and a half. There's Harshit Rana, who's only played 3 games in his career, who's just kind of made it somehow ahead of Siraj. And then there's Arshdeep Singh. So what do you make of that bowling attack and the balance?
For the bowling attack, what's always bizarre and positive for India is Akshar Patel keeps getting promoted and he keeps scoring the runs.
Yeah,
So they've got amazing batch of all rounders, which, like you
yeah,
said, add so much balance and they can tweak around
yeah,
and do so many
yeah,
different things. So from a spinner side, I think looking really solid. Shami, we know what he can do, but lack of match fitness will be TBD. Arshdeep has come a long way. He's
yeah,
they said they picked him definitely for his early on swing, but his death bowling in particular. So
yeah,
I think those two will hold the keys. Harshit Rana, new guy. Again, teams will be looking to put him under pressure, but it was a pretty good showing against England. He came in the middle and was able to get some wickets,
yeah,
and it's a tough stage for a fast bowler to be bowling. So I think overall it looks pretty promising, and so I think that's why I think they're a pretty good all round team.
yeah. And how big a factor will Dubai be, right? So they're the only side who will not take a flight for the next 2 weeks. They know exactly where all the matches will be. And I mean, that's also why they managed to pick five spinners because they know they only play in one ground, right? They don't have to cover all bases, as they say. So I guess that probably plays into their favor somewhat, makes the selection a bit easier.
What perspective for a team that not played a game in Dubai until they get to play India in the semis or the finals. So
Yeah.
so I mean that's a huge advantage. I don't think that can be discounted.
Yeah. Um, interesting to point out that India don't have Punt is probably not in their best 11 right now. And Jaiswal's not even in the squad. Again, Jaiswal potentially a generational talent. I just goes you the depth of the squad. I'm quickly going to put up what I think will be India's likely 11. And so it looks like it's a pretty similar side to what we saw in the World Cup, except instead of Bumrah, uh, they're going to have Arshdeep. And I guess they were playing three quicks very often in the World Cup as well. But that looks like the 11. The reserves are probably going to be on the ones on the right. Would you line up any
Yeah.
differently?
No, I think this is it. This is a very extremely strong 11, a lot of spin depth, and then with Pandya being the third fast bowling
Yeah,
all-rounder who's done a decent job. So I think
yeah.
this is a really good 11.
I mean, I think provided that Pandya stays fit, they, like you said, they look incredibly well balanced. Um, Quick look at the third contender in this group. I mean, depending on who you ask, the first contender, which is New Zealand. So they've, of course, had played more matches in Pakistan in the last 4 years than anybody, and more than Pakistan even maybe, because they're here every year. Uh, and the guys who were supposed to be New Zealand B and C playing 2 years ago are now in the main side. This looks like a pretty strong, likely 11 as well. I think there's a bit of a mistake there. I'm pretty sure Harshit Rana is not in the squad, but uh, on the left, would you line up any differently? Do you think this is the team they'd go with?
Do you think he'll be match fit? Obviously, he comes in. If not, then he sits out. But yeah, this the
Yeah,
11 that against Pakistan, which
yeah,
wasn't their best 11, still did a really good job, and they look like the team in form. I think they are the
yeah, yeah.
team to beat, especially given the familiarity with these conditions. So I think that looks like a really
Yeah.
good team.
I think it's interesting to point out how New Zealand and India both are very well balanced by the spinners who can bat, right? So they've got Stanton and Bracewell. India, of course, has all of the ones we listed. And I think there's something which we would do with
Yeah.
like Shadab and Nawaz and Imad Wasim, but unfortunately, we don't have those guys anymore. So it's really affecting our balance. But Omar, before we wrap up, who's your pick to go through from this group?
So I see from a group A is very pretty competitive with three subcontinental teams, but I would bet on New Zealand and India going through to the next to the semifinals.
But yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue based on current form. I feel like Pakistan had a good thing going in ODIs, but by messing up their selection and really messing with the combinations, it really altered it. So I feel like Pakistan qualifying over one of them would be a surprise. But essentially, the way I see it, I think Pakistan should be able to beat Bangladesh in these conditions. So it's a matter of winning one of the first two. If you can somehow beat New Zealand or India, then I guess you have a shot. Otherwise, yeah. And also, if Pakistan lose to New Zealand, the India game suddenly becomes a knockout game for us. So, as if we didn't have enough pressure anyway.
Yeah, yeah. If Pakistan gets on one of those runs after they beat one of the, New Zealand or India, they'll be a team to then beat, right? Because they'll be in that rich vein of
Yeah.
form that they tend to hit in these bigger tournaments sometimes. But without Saim, it's looking very difficult in my eyes. Babar, I think, holds the key. If he shows up to the party, I think the others seem to be in some sort of form that they'll be able to support.
Okay, Omar, good stuff. For those of you watching, if you have a view on who you think will qualify, please leave a comment. And we'll be back after in a couple of days once the games start. In the meantime, stay tuned to the shiny side.